Hey y'all, it's Jessica from Sloppy Swatches. Today I have the July monthly awareness polish box. This month all proceeds are going towards Group B Strep International in honor of Group B Strep awareness. 10% of each purchase, whether you purchase one polish or the entire box, will be donated towards that. I will link all of the makers' social media as well as storefronts down below and get right into it. I did purchase this box with a blogger's discount. So first up is Be My Baby, and this is from Sassy Pants Polish. This is described as a white crelly with an assortment of pink, blue, iridescent pink, and matte periwinkle glitters. This is all in a very milky white base. I'll go ahead and show you a brush shot, and I'll show you how Be My Baby swatched on my natural nail. So here's a look at that first coat. I would love your guys' input on if you prefer this angle or my more angled swatch videos. I'm trying to get it to where it's more cohesive on my Instagram, and it's a little bit easier to line up in this square format. Back to the polish. This is a little bit thicker and it definitely does lay down a nice base with the first coat. I'll let that dry and then show you how it builds up with a second coat. Here's a look at that second coat. I did go a little bit thicker with this one and I really wish I had worked in thinner coats. It did build up a little bit thick on the nail as well. 2 coats makes for really good coverage. I did still have a little flash of nail line here, so I'm going to let that dry and show you how it builds up with a third coat. So here's a look at my third coat. Again, I did go in a little bit thicker. I really would recommend going in thinner with this one. So 3 coats for sure brings this one completely opaque. Again, it is a little bit on the thicker side, so just be careful and slow while working with it. So here's a look at that completed mani at 3 coats before a glossy top coat. So this one does have a little bit of texture due to those larger glitters. I definitely do recommend a nice glossy top coat to level everything out. This is my swatch photo underneath artificial lighting, and then once more at an angle again under artificial lighting. So next up is Be Informed by Alter Ego. This is described as a pink base with a micro red and black glitter. It is intended to be a full coat polish, but you could also use this as a topper. I'll show you today how it's swatched in both ways. Here's a quick look at a brush shot, and I'll show you how Be Informed swatched on my natural nail. So here's a look at that first coat. This polish is really easy to work with, nice and on the thinner side, but without pooling or streaking or anything like that. It is just very sheer. Honestly, if you're going to wear this on its own, I would recommend using the sponge method. So I'll go ahead and let that dry and show you how it builds up with a second coat. So here's a look at that second coat. It really doesn't build up the opacity much, but it does add a ton of glitter and a little bit more shimmer. So I'll let that dry and then show you how it builds up with a third coat. So here's a look at that third coat. Again, I am going in a little bit thicker here, and this third coat does definitely add a ton more shimmer and maybe makes it a little more opaque, but it is still quite sheer. I definitely recommend sponging this one on. However, I'll show you how it's swatched as a topper over black. This is 1 coat of Tux Polish's Onyx, and I'm going to do 1 coat of Be Informed, and this is absolutely magic. That black really helps bring out the shimmer really quickly and also showcases those red glitters beautifully. I did have a small amount of brush stroking, so just be mindful if you're using this as a topper. I had no problem here capping the tip though, even after that coat. So here's a look at that completed mani with 1 coat over Tux Polish's Onyx on most of my nails, and then add its own at 3 coats on my ring nail. I definitely do prefer this one as a topper. This is my swatch photo underneath artificial lighting, and then once more at an angle under that same artificial lighting. So next up is Be Cautious from Pretty Beautiful Unlimited, and this one is a bit of a doozy. It's described as a medium gray crelly with hollow micro flakes, blue, pink, and gold hollow micro shreds with 2 different colors of ultrachrome flakies that shift from lime to blue to gold and from copper to gold to fuchsia. It also has a blue to pink to gold chameleon pigment. So there's a quick look at that brush shot, and I'll show you how Be Cautious swatched on my natural nail. Here's a look at that first coat. All of these elements really come together beautifully on the nail. This first coat is a little bit sheer, but you do get a nice arrangement of all of those different types of glitter working together. I'll let that dry and then show you how it builds up with a second coat. Here's a quick look at that second coat. I am building this one up fairly quickly with nice thick coats. I think that this second coat really pushes this one right to the edge of being completely opaque. I think it's going to be down to personal preference as well as nail length. 2 coats was really close to full coverage. I'm going to go ahead and let that dry and show you how it built up for me with a third coat. I did have a tiny, just barely minimal flash of nail line. This third coat though for sure brings this one completely opaque. This one is going to dry down a little bit textured as well due to all those different glitter elements, so I definitely do recommend a nice glossy top coat to level everything out. Here's a look at that completed mani at 3 coats before a glossy top coat underneath my artificial lighting. This is my swatch photo, again under that same artificial lighting, and then once more at an angle. I think this is going to be a stunner in natural direct sunlight. So next up is Be Alert from All Mixed Up Lacquers, and this is described as a lime green shade with multiple different sized and shaped neon matte glitters and fine holographic glitter, as well as a green micro glitter going on in there. So this is more of a Crelly formula. I'll go ahead and show you a brush shot, and I'll show you how Be Alert swatched on my natural nail. So here's a look at that first coat. This polish is a little bit on the thicker side to keep those glitters nice and suspended. I didn't have to fish for anything. They came out beautifully and also arranged pretty well on the nail. This first coat makes for a beautiful flush of color as well as a good assortment of those glitters. I'll go ahead and let that dry and show you how it builds up with a second coat. So here's a look at that second coat. I am working with fairly thicker coats here. That really helps me get those glitters put exactly where I want them if I have a nice coat to float them on. So 2 coats makes for pretty good coverage. I am going to go ahead and let that dry and show you how it builds up with a third coat. This is definitely my preferred way to wear this polish. So here's a look at my third and final coat, and this for sure brings this one completely opaque. I also got a good amount of those different colored glitters, and they spread out fairly well. This is another one that's going to dry down fairly textured. You may need 2 coats of top coat here because those larger glitters do add a bit of texture. So here's a look at that completed mani at 3 coats before a glossy top coat. This is my swatch photo under artificial lighting, and then once more at an angle under that same artificial lighting. So next up is Be Tested from Poshlish, and this is described as a pearl blue filled with matte and metallic glitters and turquoise and blues, pinks and purples, and holographics of multiple shapes and sizes. So this is another curly polish. I'll go ahead and show you a quick look at that brush shot, and I'll show you how Be Tested swatched on my natural nail. So here's a look at that first coat. Again, this one is a little bit thicker in formula, but the coverage is pretty awesome. I did get a nice mix of those glitters, and they arranged pretty well on the nail. I'll go ahead and let that dry and then show you how it builds up with a second coat. So here's a look at that second coat. I did go in a little bit thicker for this second coat, but this is completely opaque in just 2 easy coats. That shimmer is gorgeously evident on the nail. However, this one does dry down matte as well as fairly textured, so I definitely recommend a nice glossy top coat. Here's a look at that completed mani at 2 coats before a glossy top coat underneath my artificial lighting. This is my swatch photo under that same artificial lighting, and then finally at an angle. So lastly today I have Be Aware, and this is from Oh My Jewels. This is described as a creamy lavender with a flash of nearly hidden shimmer. Just keep a lookout for it. So this is a very beautiful purple on purple tone. It is a little bit more evident in the bottle than it is on the nails. I'll go ahead and show you a brush shot, and I'll show you how Be Aware swatched on my natural nail. So here's a look at that first coat. This polish is just so creamy, really a dream to work with, really close to being completely opaque in one coat. I feel like if you did a nice, careful, and thicker one coat, you could get away with just that, especially if you have shorter nails. So I'll go ahead and let that dry and then show you how it builds up with a second coat. That shimmer in this polish, I think, really brings this one down to a matte finish. I definitely recommend going in with a glossy top coat with this one as well, unless you prefer the matte look. I think that sometimes matte can help pull out the shimmer a little bit more. I had no brush stroke, no pulling, no issues at all. So here's a look at that completed mani at 2 coats before a glossy top coat underneath my artificial lighting. This is my swatch photo again under that same artificial lighting, and then once more at an angle. So that does wrap up my swatch and review of the July monthly awareness polish box. I will have all of these photos and the storefronts and social medias of the makers listed here in the description box, as well as on my blog at sloppyswatches.com. You can also follow me on Instagram at sloppyswatches. So thanks so much for watching, guys. See you next time.